Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Saturday, November 17th, 2018. We are the Armchair Authority podcast, and this is our inaugural episode. I'm Jack, and joining me today is Edward and Robert.
Hello, I'm Edward.
Hi, I'm Robert.
All right, so the purpose of the Armchair Authority podcast is to discuss current events, anything video gaming related, news, and whatever we happen to segue into. Now, for example, some of the topics that we're going to be discussing today is the recent midterm elections in the US, the new standing attorney general, and a lot of Pokemon stuff. So it's going to be a pretty good show we have for you today. So jumping right into it, let's go start with the midterm elections. Now, a lot of the races in the different states are actually a lot closer than what most people expected. There's some states where senators and House members were decided 51% to 49%. What do you guys think about these close margins and how that affects the nature of U.S. politics in general?
Yeah, I mean those are some close margins. uh, yeah.
I mean, it's the nature of the thing that there will be some close races and some not so close races with so many.
I feel like considering we have like a two-party system, it kind of I think it's inevitable that we're gonna have like really close races.
I mean, do you think a lot of these close races are due to the fact that more people are coming out to vote, or do you think that it's just a general shift that always happens in between presidential candidates?
Um, was this one even really that close? I feel like the Democrats had, I mean, a lot of votes going for them. Um, I'm pretty sure that even though they lost the Senate, I think that if you look at the popular vote, um, their performance in the Senate is a pretty good reflection of how they did in the House, and they overwhelmingly won the House. Um, so.
The Senate map was stacked against them. They did reasonably well, but they could have done better. But
Yeah.
I mean, just going by the popular vote, though, I agree that's how, in my opinion, that's how, the system should be based on instead of the electoral college. But since it's only the electoral college vote that matters, for the bigger elections, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying that the popular vote in this case, it doesn't like directly lead to like anything happening with the government, but it's sort of an indicator of how the sort of the national mood of what people are thinking about, um, which way people are leaning, and by that metric, I feel like it was a pretty good midterm for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that point itself. Now, going into this, we have this established two-party system. What do you guys think on abolishing that system entirely and not having party politics? Or maybe even if we do have party politics, expand the number of parties that we have.
well, to do that, you have to get rid of first past the post voting. If we did the preferential voting, where you can say I want this guy first, most, second, third, fourth, then that would be helpful to getting rid of the two parties. But the two parties don't want more parties, so they're not going to pass things that allow for that.
Yeah, I think I've like seen some like videos like reason out why we always have this two-party system, and like I think that it's because really our two parties don't necessarily have like a super defined like sort of political mindset. They're always like shifting like their ideals to match what the people want. Um, so it's always going to come down to like these two. But I mean, it would be nice if there's more room for like other people.
Yeah, they're just like you said, too general, and they encompass so many different viewpoints.
Hmm.
It's hard to split them up. even further. But moving on, we have immediately after the midterm elections, Attorney General Jeff Sessions got resigned, aka got fired. And now this new acting attorney, Matthew Whitaker, is in temporarily, so they say. And he had some hot takes in terms of the Mueller investigation, how he was dissatisfied with that in general. Now, let's first talk about the firing of Attorney General Jeff Sessions first. How do you think that impacts the future of politics in general, and how that sets a precedent that might not be as good as we think it is?
Well, it seems like a very authoritarian move, right? Like the president isn't happy with the investigation, so he's going to do everything he can to like squash it. And this is the president that threatened to like imprison like his adversary in his like election. It's pretty spooky. Like Jeff Sessions himself seems like a pretty garbage person, but it's just the issue of like it's not really about Jeff Sessions himself. It's about the actual investigation, make sure it goes forth. Although at this point, with the House won, even if the investigation was stopped, I think in like January it could be restarted again, with the House being controlled by the Democrats.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of precedents, I wouldn't be surprised if a while from now they just kind of shuffle a lot of the stuff that was happening now under the rug. Let's ignore that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, since this is a strange presidency, to put it lightly. Just some of the things that this administration has done is like they're setting precedents left and right, So I think that's a very likely thing to happen in the future. Now, in terms of Matthew Whitaker coming in and taking over the reins, do you guys have any strong opinions regarding that? I know that there has been nationwide protests regarding both the firing of the Attorney General and this new guy coming in last week. But what are you guys' takes regarding those? And do you think that they're a little bit too early?
No, I mean I think it's a bad thing. Like it seems like Whitaker is very much like Trump's like lackey, and he'll just sort of do whatever the president wants. So I mean, yeah, it seems like a bad thing.
But he's like brought in a lot of people who, like on the surface, would do what he wants exactly, but then they all end up getting fired eventually. How long do you think he'll last before he inevitably gets the boot?
12 months.
12 months. That's a long time, given the track record of how like other people stayed with him.
He's sort of supposed to just be like a temporary dude, right?
Oh, is he? Okay,
Like
then.
like a stand-in or something. I'm not
It's
sure.
temporary, but I think there's like a workaround where it's possible to make him permanent or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's there for like 4 months.
4 months. All right. I'm gonna go with the all-in bet of 1 month.
Okay.
I'm gonna go all in for this, and we'll check in later on to see what the actual results of that would be. Now, you guys have any other more things you want to say about this particular topic? Any other thoughts to add?
Whitaker is very bald.
Oh, come on, you can't discriminate on someone who's bald.
Who said anything about discriminating?
This is 2018. All right.
No, I think that's it.
All right. Moving on. Now, this is something that Edward actually brought to my attention, so I'll let him introduce this topic. It's about like one of the CNN reporters in at a White House press conference. So I'll let Edward take the reins on that.
Yeah, so Joe Acosta, he's like a CNN reporter. He was at this conference and he was trying to like ask a question, and like question like it was like getting dodged over and over again, and this I forgot what is this girl's name? The
I don't remember, but I think she was like a White House intern or something.
yeah, but she tries to like grab the microphone from him or whatever, and he sort of goes to block her, and after that he was like banned, um, and the White House put out this video of the incident, explaining why he was banned, and it was found that the video was like doctored, like the like most of the videos the same except like his like the hand movements, so, and like around his arms it was like sped up to make it look like his sort of block was like more aggressive than it actually was. Um, yeah.
Yeah, eventually, though, it seemed like the court ruled in favor of Jim Acosta, and now he's getting his press pass reinstated. So,
Well, they ruled in favor of him because like Trump didn't go through the proper motions to like ban him. It's not like they ruled that, it's a violation of free speech or anything like that. It wasn't like anything too crazy. They just said, "Oh, if you want to ban this guy, you have to go through the proper channels."
oh, I see, I see. I thought it was like the court's actually agreeing with the report is saying that that wasn't actually like a violation, but it turns out it's not.
You reminded me of something. Didn't the court a while ago say that Trump couldn't just block people on Twitter?
What was that about?
So just I get it'd be something like it's against his free speech, that person's free speech, since Trump uses Twitter in an official manner, and so that it was something like he can't block people and only has to mute them. But I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Yeah, the president can't block you on Twitter.
That's that's interesting. I never knew that such a thing existed. Is that this? Or go ahead.
On May 23rd, they ruled that Trump can't legally block his Twitter followers for political reasons because that would amount to viewpoint discrimination.
But I feel like the biggest thing that comes out of this though is like I mean, again, this is very like a very authoritarian move by Trump. He's using fake evidence to sort of try to block a reporter from like attending his conference, right? It's like crazy. Like imagine if like Obama did this or something. Like I don't know. It's like it's a crazy move. It seems like I wouldn't have an issue with this if like Trump just walked out and said, I don't really like this Acosta guy. CNN can like send another reporter. That's way more acceptable to me than trying to like subtly manipulate people's opinions. It seems like that's a very like nefarious thing to do, and
I mean,
yeah, I don't know. It's pretty scary.
we all know that Trump is like the master of fake news, right? He's been doing that since his like entire administration and his entire like campaign trail.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
is
they
it really
pulled
that surprising that he's doing it again here, though?
like the White House page or whatever. It pulled this like doctored video from like Infowars. The whole thing is so stupid, and well, it's more than stupid. It is really scary, actually, how things like are getting so authoritarian. That's all of like these executive orders and yeah, manipulating people's perceptions of events. It's pretty spooky.
Do you think that will revert later on after Trump leaves the office, or will that just be a new
I think
standard?
I think there's been some pretty almost irreparable damage done. I think it's gonna be a tough ride. Like with a lot of like these Supreme Court justices and stuff, like it's not just gonna be like a thing that's gonna go away. Like a lot of the damage that's been done, you know.
That's true.
Yeah, this isn't a Trump problem. It's just misinformation is going to be so much easier in the future because video editing and audio editing are almost to the point where it's just they're pretty close to being extremely hard to differentiate.
I mean, that's just something that we have to deal with as technology gets better and better, right?
Yeah.
It's just annoying because like you'll see like these people say, oh well, technically his like blocking thing was like that could be like considered like assault or whatever. So it's like bad. It's like you shouldn't be deriving your idea of what's like good and bad from like what the law says. It's like what happened is like this reporter, he was trying to ask Trump a question. Trump kept dodging the question, and this reporter insisted on getting like an answer from Trump, and then he was silenced for it. Right, I mean, it's a pretty scary thing. It doesn't really like what the law says about this incident. I don't think really should matter.
Yeah, no, of course not. But if you like view it from another direction, couldn't it be said that the intern was the person who assaulted the reporter in the first place? Can people even argue that? I'm sure there must be some people who.
I think it'd be a tough argument because you're just trying to go for the microphone, and yeah, I don't know.
The laws behind assault are, in my experience, kind of. I don't like how they are, because, like, I was on a jury duty trial where it had something to do with an assault case, and from what I understand, I don't know if this was just there or in general, intent really isn't that big a deal. It's all about how the person perceives it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I wonder if it's like, I know this is like going really off topic here, but do you think that like assault seems to be more female favored than male favored? Like, for example, like let's say that a female like assaults a male, like the courts are probably going to believe like the female side of the story 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Is what I view it as. Just because it's so ingrained, like that viewpoint is so ingrained in us that it's just the natural response, I guess.
Yeah, because like there's I forget the name of the protocol, but it's named after I think some city in Minnesota, where it's just, if there's like if police have to go to a house for a report of like domestic violence or something like that, they always take the man. And just like so, even if the woman was the one being violent, that they will still arrest the man.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical. Yeah, if there's like a domestic dispute, they'll come in and like kick the guy out for the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we went a little bit too deep in that rabbit hole, but just to bring it back and do a recap, it is very scary that there is so much like authoritarian thing that the president is doing right now. It sets a really dangerous precedent for the future and how American politics is going to play out in the next years, decades, and so on and so forth. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't trend that way, but from how things are looking right now, things are looking a lot more worrisome in the future. Now, going on to another election topic, I'm going to pass it over to Robert since he knows more about this than I do. Something about the Missouri Constitution. So I'll let you.
Yes, among more humorous election things. So for some reason in Missouri, bingo laws are part of the state constitution. So my friend was telling me this as we were griping about filling out our mail-in ballots. But so for whatever reason, they had to vote over whether or not to change the bingo laws, and I'm looking for the text of the vote because here it is. Do you want to amend the Missouri Constitution to remove language limiting bingo game advertising that a court ruled unenforceable and allow a member of a licensed organization conducting bingo games to participate in the management of bingo games after being a member of the organization for 6 months instead of the current 2 years? State and local governmental entities estimate no cost or savings from this proposal. So just basically, for whatever reason in Missouri, to run a bingo game, you have to have been part of that organization for 2 years. And they're trying to shorten that to 6 months and make it so you can actually vote or can actually advertise bingo.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently people had really strong opinions on this because it only passed with 52% of the vote.
So now it's reduced to 6 months?
Yeah. So now, say it's the Knights of Columbus running the bingo game, you have to have been a member of the Knights for 6 months instead of 2 years.
That seems like something so trivial that it shouldn't even be on the ballot.
Yeah, but why it's so trivial is that why it's so strong opinions, because everyone can have an opinion on this. It's like it's compared to like the I've seen it. The usual examples, like for what color a bike shed should be, everyone will have an opinion on that, so it'll take a lot longer than matters of like economic policy, where most people have no idea what's going on.
Well,
Yeah.
bingo is sort of like a form of gambling, right? Because
Yeah.
you pay your money to show up, and there's no guarantee that you'll win anything.
Apparently, it being in the state constitution goes back to 1980 when it was legalized for charitable purposes.
People and their gambling, man. They'll go all out for it. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to bring up is the concept of voting and what I think about voting in general. So to me, for most of my life, I thought that voting was kind of just whatever. My vote doesn't really matter, and even if I go out and vote, I won't make an impact, so why even bother? But now, with how close these elections are, and that now that I'm actually paying attention to politics, it feels like my vote will actually matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, my one vote will make an impact somewhere, somehow. Now, I know that, well, as Robert said, he votes, but Edward and I both do not and are not registered at the moment to vote.
Yeah.
But I think I want to start spreading the message a little bit, saying that voting is somewhat important. Like, if we get enough of a group to go out and vote that don't usually do it, we might actually get like a significant, like, couple thousand people, and that could actually change the result of an election. Now, I want to hear what you guys think regarding voting and whether you should convince others to vote, whether you think that just your general thoughts about this voting issue.
I mean, I think that you participate no matter what you do, even like not voting, in a way, is a form of participation, by sort of just upholding, I guess, status quo, thinking, just going along with what other people are doing. But I mean, I think that generally voting is probably a good thing. Yeah.
If you get enough people who think that their vote matters, then it will matter, even though individually their vote doesn't matter. But see, funny thing, when my ballot came into my mailbox, I was quite disappointed. I kind of hoped that it would be screwed up this year and I wouldn't have to actually take the time to fill it out. Because I can't stand voting. It takes forever. Even after hours of research, I don't have that great of an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find information on all these local candidates. And just... So I really dislike it when people tell me to vote. But I also dislike it when they tell other people to vote. Because other people voting lessens the value of my vote.
It could strengthen the value of your vote as well.
If they vote the same as me, yes.
If they vote the same as you.
I guess the lesson here is if you're going to vote, you have to make sure everyone else around you is voting as well, and they're all voting the same as you.
Yeah, that is true. But it's quite an interesting thing to discuss because, like Edward said, if you don't vote, you're basically participating in a more passive way, essentially. And
I mean, you're just committing to going along with the ride, and you don't really, like, if you get upset at what happens, it's hard for you to really act, morally upset because you didn't choose to participate at all.
You're basically just a passenger, like, going along for the ride. Like, you're like, the people who vote are like the captain and the crew members, and you're just like there, sitting at the table, eating good food. But
don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Who is Kodos?
That's from a Simpsons episode back at the 2000 election, or was it the 96 election? Did Bob Dole. 96. It was Bob Dole versus Clinton, but it was their Treehouse of Horror because both of the candidates got elected by aliens, and then it got revealed before the election that they're both aliens. But they're like, "What are you going to do? It's a two-party system," and so they voted for King. So then Homer, when they were all doing slave labor, was like, "Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos."
Hmm. Well, why do you keep a? Or go ahead.
Right, like isn't this joke also sort of doesn't it also come up in one of like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy's books?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, why do they keep voting for?
Yeah, why do they keep voting for like the lizard people or something?
Because it never occurred to them that they can vote for someone that's not a lizard person.
Yeah.
Why do you continue voting then if you hate voting? Is it out of some sort of civic duty?
Civic duty, patriotic duty, I don't know. So that I can say, so that people can't complain to me in a way, except really, if I wanted to, I'd have to get someone I actually liked to run and then convince everyone that, no, vote for this person. But
That's not happening. That's not happening.
Next election, instead of voting, I'll just donate to whatever campaign I support. I think I'll have a bigger impact that way.
Oh, come on, Edward. Your little chump change won't help like the big corporations who are like donating.
I mean, still, I feel like it has more of an impact than your little like chumpy one vote.
All right, Edward, come on. Next time, 2020 elections, we vote. Set that as our goal. We'll evolve from being the Armchair Authority to the Protesting Authority or something like that. All right.
Activism
Authority. We'll keep the alliteration going.
you know what would amuse me? If we just go protest some random person at a county office.
Yeah. Which one did you have in mind?
It doesn't matter. It has to be someone we haven't actually heard of until the day of. It's just we go stand outside their office and protest.
We should go protest the dead pimp that got elected.
The what?
There was like a pimp who passed away, but he was still on the ballot in one of these states, and then he got voted into office. I forget which state. I think it was like Utah or Nevada.
This sounds like some fake news. Are you sure this is a thing?
No. I'm fairly sure this is a thing. It's in Nevada. Pimp Dennis Hoff wins Nevada legislative race after death.
Or like go protest the school board election.
Yeah, just take a look. I think we should go protest that office. I wonder how they're dealing with that over there. Just because it's actually so strange that something like this is allowed to happen.
What was he running for? This wasn't like a representative or like a senator, right?
It was a state legislative district.
Yeah, who cares about that? That's like some like.
Is that some kind of like meme position at that point?
It's funny you should confuse Utah with Nevada because while neighboring, they're very different.
Well, I'm just noting the general area here. Okay, I'm not saying that they're like similar.
Yeah. Nevada has brothels and Utah has Mormons.
That's true. Now, if I think about it for like a hot second, I would think that wouldn't really make sense. But anyways, I think that should end part 1 of this podcast where we discuss politics and current events. You guys have anything more to add to that before we move on to part B, part 2?
Nope.
No.
All right. So, moving on to the video game news. A lot of Pokemon on the horizon with Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu coming out, plus the Detective Pikachu movie, as well as the mainline title coming out soon in 2019. Now, I'll let Edward go first here since he actually has the game. So run us through what the initial thoughts are.
We're discussing the game? Okay, so I think that the game is actually good. I like it. And my reason for this is because I think that the changes they've made have improved like sort of the gameplay loop, right? Like random battles were garbage. I think most people can agree on that. I think people who say that they're okay with random battles are just being dishonest. So no more random battles. That's like garbage, right?
Hmm.
You like see the Pokemon on the map. You can sort of maneuver around them. You can run into them. It's it's a good thing. The actual combat, well, I guess it's not really combat with the random Pokemon. It's like you just sort of like throw like your little like Pokeball at them or whatever. Um, I mean, it's fairly engaging, right? It's like an interesting change. I don't know if it should stick, but I don't hate it. I think it's pretty decent. Um, but I guess for reference, I haven't played a Pokemon game since like Pokemon Y, so it's been several years. So a lot of these changes are new to me. Like you can like ride Pokemon around, that's cool. No more HMs, that's cool. You don't have to like visit like your PC to transfer Pokemon around. I think that's cool too. Like all the crappy parts, all like the boring parts are sort of like gone now. Um, and it's like they're really stressing like the good parts, like the core aspects of what makes it like a good Pokemon game, right? You have the exploration stuff with like you can like ride your Pokemon around. You have like the collecting stuff where you can like see like Pokemon on the map and you can go and like try to like capture them and stuff. Um, the combat is mostly the same. If you battle another trainer, it's pretty much the same stuff. I feel like that probably should be changed somehow. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, I like it.
How do you think it should be changed then? Like, how would a Pokemon battle be any different than it is now? Like, how could it change from the current formula that we have?
I think that all of the Pokemon, like they already have like a different like temperaments and like sort of special traits or whatever. I think those need to be like a lot more distinct and a lot more individualized. Like I don't think you should be able to play um like like just like two Pokemon basically the same way, right? Like if you have like two like different like fire type Pokemon, whatever, like most for the most part you can play them in the exact same way. Um, but I think that they should be a lot more distinct and unique in how they play and how you like control them.
Mm.
Um, I also think that the AI needs to be improved, right? Like I feel like when you battle with other trainers, and I feel like to me that's like the most fun part of the game really is battling the other trainers. I feel like it should be a lot more tactical, and you should have to think a lot more
Mm.
about what you're doing. I mean, I still think it should be like a turn-based thing and like stuff like that. But yeah, I just want it to be a little bit more tactical and a little bit more unique.
So instead of like it just the Pokemon's like nature giving them like extra stats in like certain areas, you would say like you could have something like Ash's Charmeleon who refuses to listen to your commands. Is that what you want?
Yeah, more stuff like that, right? Like there's the what's the one like sloth dude? Like who like occasionally falls asleep. Like that's like a fun thing, right? Yeah,
Like
Hacking, yeah.
there
You
needs
got
to be more stuff like that.
slow start, Shninja with 1 HP, but doesn't take non-super effective damage.
But wouldn't people just get irritated after a while, like not having your Pokemon listen to what you say?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that you give every single Pokemon an ability just like that, but I'm saying that you like I don't think you should be able to play like a Bulbasaur and a Chikorita basically the same exact way, right? There needs to be like some defining characteristic between them that makes
Mm.
them quite a bit different. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not saying that every single Pokemon needs to have like they disobey your commands, right? That'd be pretty dumb.
Mm.
But there needs to be something there, I think.
But I think it's just so hard to like create those distinctions since there's so many Pokemon now.
I
Like
mean,
Not
yeah.
in the
they
Let's Go
become
games.
what's that?
The Let's Go games only have 151.
Oh, that's right. They're going with like the first area,
Yeah,
first
Gen
game
1,
only,
Kanto.
the best.
That's actually one of my complaints about the games and why I'm on the fence, because just it feels so few now that how many Pokemon are in the bigger games. And it's just so yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get the game because the graphics are gorgeous, and I do like that you don't have to do all the wild encounters, but I don't want to catch Pokemon by tossing balls at them. I'm annoyed enough at it in Pokemon Go on the phone, which I've played that game enough. I'm level 37. In fact, I'm catching a Slugma right now, but
Yeah, I haven't played a lot of Pokemon Go, so I guess I'm not quite as burnt out on it. But I kind of enjoy the mechanic, right? Because like the Pokemon, like when you run into a random Pokemon, like they sort of they move around some of them, and then they'll like like they do like their little attack and stuff, and you have to like time and aim like your Pokeball. And I mean, I think it's pretty decent. I don't know if it should stay, but a lot of people seem to be really bitter about the whole like no more random encounters, which is something I have a hard time understanding.
Yeah.
Like their argument is like if you didn't like random encounters, then you just use your repel. So essentially, it's like essentially your two options then is to go through the huge pain of random encounters, or you basically choose to not play the game at all. And this new system of being able to like see the stuff like actually like in the world is so much better. Like if when you go into like the cave levels, instead of just running into like hundreds and hundreds of Zubats or whatever, that
Mm.
like whole painful experience, you can actually like explore the cave and like see the stuff crawling around, and yeah, it's way better.
Yeah, I don't know of anyone that I know that says random encounters are nice.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad for this change because random encounters it just like disrupts the flow of the game. And sometimes you're like in an area where there's just like grass and you can't run away from that. And then you inevitably get like 10 random encounters as you're trying to cross.
Yep.
And it's just not enjoyable. Now, with the changes that uh, these Pokemon titles have brought to this series, do you think we'll ever get a 3D Pokemon experience, like full 3D? Like, I'm talking about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild type Pokemon game.
I mean, ever. I mean, I probably during like the Switch's lifetime. I'm not. I mean, I don't. I hope so.
Let's just not say forever, but let's just say in the Switch's lifetime. Let's give it some boundary here.
Um, I think the best we get on the Switch is somewhere between Let's Go and Breath of the Wild, like whatever the halfway point would be. I don't think we're going to be able to climb mountains and whatnot in a Pokemon game.
My concern is are they going to try to use like the same engine through all like for all of the Nintendo Switch games? Because it kind of like it seems like if they got into the trouble of sort of porting this engine to the Nintendo Switch, I'm kind of worried that they're going to try to just like stick with it. And I'm not sure if this like current game engine can handle like you know free movement and like being able to move your camera around and be like more close to the ground. And I don't know if it's capable of doing that. I
So,
don't think it is.
is that engine like just for the Pokemon games, or is it for every other Switch title?
Yeah, it's just for the Pokemon games. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's the Game Freaks engine. I don't know what.
How long
Yeah,
have people been waiting on Bethesda to change their engine?
That's what I was gonna bring up next. That's a perfect segue into Elder Scrolls 6 and how they're still using the Gamebryo engine, basically.
yeah, and they're using it in Fallout 76.
That as well. That should have been retired like ages ago.
Yep.
It just like I think the game that they made like early on was like Morrowind. And that was like one of the first titles that they made on that engine, and now like almost like a decade and a half later, it's still the same engine. Like, come on, Bethesda, step your game up. We need a new engine by now.
I think their strat to keep like the cost down and the profits high is they just don't hire like any programmers. They just hire artists, and they just use the same engine over and over again.
Yeah, they're certainly milking it, right? Because like, think about like other game companies, right? How many game companies have released like broken titles day one and then just let the modding community fix it for them? Like, if any other like game did that, there'd be outrage. But like Bethesda is getting away with this. Like, I'm sure when Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 76 come out, there's gonna be tons of mods that fix all the issues with the broken Gamebryo engine.
Yeah.
It just seems like how they operate. Shareholders first, boys. No.
So, I think it's impossible to have like an immersive experience in that engine at this point. Um,
No.
It
It
has
needs
to
to like
change.
you just need to dig a grave for it and then just say like rip, put in the tombstone and be done with it.
Yeah, but I haven't enjoyed a Bethesda game since New Vegas. I I think that I think that their stories are trash and their characters are trash. And, yeah.
I actually have not played any of the Fallout games, so I can't really say much. I think the latest Bethesda game I played was Skyrim, and that was back like in 2012.
I don't know that I've actually played one, even though I own like 3 or 4 of them.
What about Dishonored though? I thought Dishonored was a pretty good game and a breath of fresh air for Bethesda.
I don't think they developed Dishonored, did they? I think that was like a published thing.
I mean, I think that was. I thought they did that.
The developer was Arcane Studios.
But it wasn't still under them though.
Well, published, but that
So it wasn't like a first,
Like it's
I guess, a first
essentially
party title.
like
or in-house.
Bethesda they like paid for it. They like bankrolled the project, but like it wasn't like or it wasn't like Todd Howard making the game.
Todd Howard. Yeah, so that explains why that game is different and better
Yeah.
than everything else. But all right, some more Pokemon news. Detective Pikachu the movie is coming out relatively soon, with Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu's voice, which I don't know if I like that at all. I'm sure a lot of people who watch the movie, when they see that, they'll be thinking like, why is this Deadpool's voice? It's not like he's even changing his voice that much or any at all to like match the character of Pikachu.
I think it's sort of like, I mean, it would have been easy to just pick like a cute voice for Pikachu, right? That would have been an easy route, but they're not doing that. Instead, it seems like they're trying to make it a little bit of a edgier movie, and it's supposed to sort of. It seems like the movie is almost sort of like on surface level, it looks like it's supposed to be serious, but it seems like it's not really taking itself like there's like a level of like comedy there, right? Like yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
yeah, they're going for somewhat edgier without as edgy as it could have been. So 2 years ago, for the Detective Pikachu Pokemon or for the game, there was a petition that got signed by 50,000 people to get Danny DeVito to be the voice of Pikachu. Now that fell through, and in fact, Danny DeVito, when he heard about that, he was like, "What the f is a Pokemon?" I seen some people responding with "What the f is a Danny DeVito," but yeah. So Reynolds wouldn't be as edgy as DeVito for that voice, I suppose.
Why did they want DeVito in the first place? I've never heard of this petition.
Just because Danny DeVito's voice coming out of the Pikachu would be hilarious, I guess. If you look on YouTube, there's a few videos with like someone a couple days ago took the Detective Pikachu trailer and replaced all of Reynolds' lines with DeVito,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty funny.
I'll actually have to take a look at that after this, just to see how different and how.
Yeah,
I like how they're committing like fully to like the Pokemon world, right? They're not like trying to do like the real world with like Pokemon in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a fully like Pokemon world. Like they drive like the stupid little like clown car things and
yeah. It feels kind of like
but,
Zootopia in a way.
it shows like a scene where they're like cooking. I wonder what they're cooking. That's the big question.
What could they be cooking?
In the world of the cartoons, there hasn't been non-Pokemon animals in quite a while. Because originally they had some in like the first season, but that's just because like they didn't have mongoose Pokemon at the time, and now they do. So,
well, I mean, if you look at what Brock cooks, he always makes like curry, I guess, in those rice balls, and that's basically their entire diet.
Are they all vegan?
Are they all
Pokemon world.
They must be. They must be.
And
That's
isn't
something you could get on board, right?
Farfetch'd is supposed to be a delicacy or something? And
Yeah, they quickly went away from that.
yeah, no, they didn't.
Are they still eating Farfetch in real life?
Well, there's still Pokédex entries about it, I think.
Oh, do they still say that they're the delicacy?
Yeah.
I like me some roast duck too.
I really like the way Psyduck looks in the trailer.
Jigglypuff looks scary in the trailer. Like, I don't know. It just seems like.
But it's like this whole movie is about like subverting your expectations, right? Because you like go into it thinking you're gonna see like some kind of super like bright like cutesy interpretation.
Yes. That's exactly what I want.
But they go like the other way, but they also don't. They're not like too serious about the fact that they're going the other way. It's kind of supposed to be somewhat of a meme, I think.
Yeah. I don't understand how the world was supposed to work if you couldn't actually speak to the Pokemon. I guess it's just like the cartoon, but yeah.
In this show, I think like the main character is gonna have like some kind of special powers or something. At least that's what the trailer seems to indicate.
I'm just gonna say I have low expectations for live action movies in general, so I'm gonna hold off on the hype.
I mean, I'm not expecting this to be like the Grammy Award winner.
No, of course not. But I was expecting at least something just good. But even that will have to wait until that actually comes out, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Curb my expectations a little bit.
Grammy Awards? You mean you're not expecting it to be a musical?
I guess I don't know what the awards are for.
No.
Is it Oscars for movies?
Yeah, I'm expecting a not enjoying it because it's a good movie, but because it's kind of funny and bad. A bit
It's so bad that it's funny.
Possibly.
Or that's good.
Yeah, a bit more of a meta level enjoyment than a normal level.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that covers most of the Pokemon stuff for this podcast. Now, I think Edward had a question for us that he wanted to ask, so I'll let him take the spotlight for this.
What? I don't have a question.
Yeah, you do have a question. I see it right here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
is that not a question?
We talked a bit about what makes video games fun and stuff, just a little bit. But I guess I want to go more in depth on that. Like, what do you like when you're looking for like a good video game? Like, what are the elements of what are like the elements that you enjoy the most? Be it like the gameplay or like the narrative or like the writing, the competitiveness. Like what what does it take for a video game to be like amazing to you?
You want to take this one first, Robert?
What does it take for a video game to be amazing? Apparently be Breath of the Wild, so I guess engrossing world, able to explore some part story, but I like there being an overarching story for like things like League of Legends or Rocket League where you're just doing the same thing over and over. I don't know, I feel like I don't have a sense of achievement like I do with when I finish a story in a game.
You're not really a competitive player anyways, so I can see why those don't appeal as much to you.
Yes, I don't think a competitive player could have the opinion that tripping and brawl is good. Which I like it because if I don't know what I'm doing, then I don't want my opponent to know either.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. So going into my gaming preferences, I used to enjoy like really long RPGs, like 60 hours, 100-hour RPGs. But now I found that like after I start working, it's not really a time issue because I think working is about the same time as going to school in terms of being in class and doing the homework is equivalent to the hours that you spend at work 9 to 5. Now, what I think regarding like these long RPGs now is that I don't have the energy to play them anymore. Just sometimes when I get back from work, I just want to sit down and relax. I don't want to have to grind through this RPG and do all these things. I just want to go and relax. So those aren't really my top picks anymore. Now I'm looking for a game that's shorter, maybe like 10 to 20 hours instead of 60 epic hours. I do want a story. Contrary to Robert, I don't like open world as much. I want a set linear storyline because with open world, that contributes to additional gameplay time that I just don't feel like doing anymore. So I do like linear storylines with them telling you where to go specifically. Like, for example, in Mirror's Edge, I really do like that game just because it says you have to go from point A to point B, and then it brings you to a new area and says go do the same thing again, but maybe with these like slightly altered objectives from time to time. Competitive games, I'm kind of on the fence on those. I sometimes I get in the competitive mood and want to play games like that, and then other times I'm like, I don't want to like feel anxiety or feel stressed because I lost. So I'm like, I'm gonna stay far away from those games. So that's kind of like a seasonal thing, but I think that's pretty much the majority of my gaming preferences.
So I think for me, what it takes to make a video game really like appealing to me is I really like distinct writing and like really good characters. Because I think that having like really good characters is sort of what leaves you thinking about a game long after you finished it. Like examples of games that I think have done this really well would be like Mass Effect. I thought Mass Effect had like amazing characters and some pretty decent writing at times. I quite like Nier. Nier is pretty edgy. I guess the characters could have been a bit better, but I like the writing. It's very unique. I like Life is Strange. The writing of that game kind of went overboard at times, but I thought the characters were really cool. Yeah, like if the game has like good writing and good characters, I'm willing to like forgive like pretty much all the other faults that it could come with, even if it has like a Borg story. Like if like the overarching story is as simple as go slay the big evil dragon. If you're like meeting really like cool people along the way during your journey and stuff, it's going to turn into like a very memorable experience.
So it sounds like what you want is like dark and edgy. That's basically all the games that you've listed.
I mean, I guess it turns out that I don't know. I mean, I like games that make me think. Right? I liked Firewatch. That was a great game too. I like games that make me think about things. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, to round this podcast out, round this first episode out, I have a question for you guys. Now, I don't know if you've... Well, first, let me ask this question. Have you guys ever considered rating your friends against each other?
Rating or rating?
Rating. Like, do you have, like, a scale of sorts? Like saying, this friend is my number one friend. This is number 2. This is number 3. Is there something that you've ever thought about, ever actually wrote a list for? Or is that something that never crossed your mind?
I've thought about it, but never actually did anything like that because I didn't think I'd like the conclusions I would make.
Edward?
I don't really think so. Like I have like friends that I would like hang out with like on a one-on-one setting, but I don't know if that makes them like I don't know. I guess that's like the closest thing, but I don't really think of like this is like my S tier and this is like my A tier and this is my B tier. Like I think that's just a weird way to view things.
I mean, surely there's like different tiers at least for friends, right? Some people that you're just you feel like a better connection with, or you feel more comfortable with. Certainly that exists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Now, the follow-up question is to actually rate each other on this podcast. So I will give you two a rating, and you will do the same for the rest of us. How does that sound?
Oh, sounds pretty
Impromptu
awkward.
rating. Now, let me give you two options. Then you can either go for like 1, 2, 3, doing like a numerical list in your mind, or if you don't want to do it as like, I guess, controversial, you could go ahead with tiers as well. Now, give you guys a little bit of time to think about that for a second, since this is a spicy question. While you do that, I will start off. I have actually made a list before, and people think, like, when I tell people think it's strange, but I certainly do like the aspect of like not ranking them specifically, but evaluating like my relationship with that person and how it has changed like throughout. Then again, I've only ever made one list, so I really haven't examined the changes, but I think about that not often, but sometimes. So for you to even like for us to even do a podcast together, right? There has to be some level of friendship. So let's say that it's like we'll make like 4 tiers: S, A, B, and C. So I think you guys have to be at least minimum A tier for me to even be considering doing a podcast with you guys. Now, for me, S tier usually consists of people that I've known for like a super long time. So I'm sure it'd be no surprise to you guys if I said Ken, one of our mutual friends, is in my S tier. Now, I feel like I've set myself up for failure as well. Because, okay. I think I would honestly put both of you in the S tier. Edward I've known for longer, but I think Robert deserves to be in S tier as well. So I think my final answer will be just saying that you both are S tier.
Okay. Are we putting people in tiers just I don't know. Like, how did you even begin? Like, what kind of criteria do you pick?
You can define your own criteria. Like it's certainly subjective, right? Like something that matters to me might not matter to you.
Like for me, like the perfect person would be someone that that makes me like reevaluate how I view the world, or like they maybe like make me like think about things differently. They sort of expand my horizons. I don't know if really any of my friends do that.
Well, I mean, we can just do like asymptotically approaches, and then you just say like, "Hey, this is my ideal," and then what would I be able to say is the tier right below that? Like, what qualities are they missing for that
so
ideal?
like since I'm not really like learning anything, the next metric would be just like, how much fun do I have when I hang out with them? And,
Yeah. Something like that. Like for me, my ideal would be people that I can hang out with and have a good laugh and be myself. I don't have to pretend to be someone else I'm not. Like I don't have to talk a certain way or act a certain way, and I just feel comfortable being in their presence. I think that would be super ideal for me.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll put Jack in the S tier. Um, um, I feel like for Robert, I'm gonna have to put him in like the A tier, but maybe in a few months he'll be graduated into the S tier.
Yeah,
Because
that's about what I'd say for you. We just haven't interacted enough.
yeah, I guess not a few months, a few weeks.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, Jack, your criteria was largely time based because, well, I have that. Like a lot of my oldest friendships, since I don't interact with them anymore. So I mean, sure, I've had them a long time, but they've just been decaying. So, like recently, I've been watching some of what I'd consider S tiers degrade into a. Well, one's just a lower S, one's falling into a B. One might have went from like A to C.
I mean, I think like time matters to me personally because I tend to have like a smaller friend group, but the friends in that group are very important to me. So
How
that's
many?
why time is important in
So
my case.
if we're calling the S tier like the really close people or whatever that you can like hang out with like one on one and stuff and be like comfortable around them, like how many people are in there?
Like for me right now,
Yeah.
uh, I should have prepared. There's at least 5
Okay. I think that's a pretty large group, honestly.
for S.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like honestly, like how many like I don't know what the average person is like, but how many people have like more than 5 people that they would like hang out with for extended side like they hang out with that person for like, 8 hours straight, you know, once or twice a week, no problem. Like I mean,
I mean, yes.
I think I have like 3 people.
I know who those 3 are. If I'm part of the S tier, I know who the other 2 are.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like you could probably guess who the 5 are for me. I've already told you too.
Oh, woe to our podcast listeners who have no idea what's going on.
Well, I mean, I think this is something that I've like thought about in the past, and I just want to get your guys' view.
So like I guess to make this more universal, I think there's been like studies to show like how many like friendships you could sort of keep up with at a
Oh, yeah,
time.
the Dunham's number or your monkey sphere.
Yeah, I've forgotten what the numbers were.
It's like 150, but that number is
That,
very
that's like to know people,
dependent and
right? To like
like
generally
yeah,
keep up with them. I feel like for like really close friends, like I feel like it's sort of maxed out at like 15-ish or something like that.
yeah. Well, then
For
you're
like to
just
be like really close to someone, I think it was like 15-ish, maybe.
that has to depend on what you mean by close and what is keep up and
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you even need to keep up with a good friend? Because I know that I could go months without talking to one of my S tiers, and it would feel like when we got back together, it would be like there's like that 5 month gap didn't happen.
I think now that we're older, maybe the time isn't so important. But I mean, I guess now that like I feel like yeah, you're fully into like an adult life, maybe the time isn't as important. But I think maybe in the past, I would consider the time more important because things change more quickly with people. Um, like there are people that I was like best friends with in like high school or whatever that I don't talk to at all anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I guess it depends why you stopped and yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
and I guess I didn't answer site. Yeah, Jack, you're an S.
Okay. Well, it just like I think that's a good point to end the podcast off. We had a somewhat risky question to ask for the first episode, but we got through it all the same. Now, the you guys have anything else to add before we sign this off?
Rip Stanley.
Rip Stanley, yes, never forget. Your movies will remain awesome. You have 3 more cameos, I think.
Well, I don't know if they're that awesome.
They're not that awesome. They're making
Infinity
lots
War
of
was pretty
money.
good.
They're making lots of money though, so some people must be enjoying it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first episode of the Armchair Authority podcast successfully completed. Now, this podcast will be on a bi-weekly schedule, so we'll see you guys next time on December the 1st. So, signing off, guys. Peace.
All right.